I know the name.
I mean, for rental, though, you're not gonna sign it.
You know, I mean, I just don't, you know, have any real high, I like Christmas ball players. I just don't think that we need them right now on our team. Well, who's your that? Well, I mean, you go out. Well, they can platoon, well, J.D. Davis really is not a great guy. Yeah, he's a functional third. Yeah. But he's a good hitter. And then they can bring in John, who was the artist played there. I mean, a couple of guys who played for Christian okay. That's okay. They can always come over and play it. With the shortstop situation being the way it is, I think they'll be okay. I'm more concerned about the pitching. For me, I'm just like, you know, this is the time to get ready to go against it. The only problem is home field. These are the games that can end up being.
And Glenn was saying, we need first round, we have to message the next week. Right. We need him in all in. With a cool going down. Oh my God.
Yeah, but that's it. That's what I'm thinking. You want to see yeah, just call you, right? Call you up and you're ready. You're selling everybody.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Steve Barnes. I'm from the Office of the Attorney General, from the Communications Office. Really appreciate you joining us for this press conference. We're about to begin, so if everyone needs one, please grab a seat. First, you'll be hearing from Acting Attorney General Andrew Bruck, after which you'll hear from other speakers, and then we'll move to Q&A. Given the number of speakers we have today, what we'll be going through, it'll be an on-topic Q&A, please. With that, we'll begin the conference. 1 second, please.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
We are here today to announce 3 significant steps that we are taking to address gun violence here in the city of Patterson and across the state of New Jersey. First, we are announcing criminal charges against 14 defendants allegedly linked to the Trinitarios Street Gang, a criminal organization that recently threatened a significant escalation in gang violence here in Patterson, while attempting to control drug territory in the city's 5th Ward. Second, we're announcing the results of a separate, multi-agency operation led by the U.S. Marshals Service that resulted in the arrest of 133 fugitives with a focus on removing violent offenders from the streets. And third, we're announcing a gun buyback program scheduled for Saturday, August 7th, here in Patterson and 3 other communities across the state. Taken together, these initiatives mark an opening salvo in a new, stepped-up effort against gun violence in this state. I want to give my colleagues here the opportunity to talk about the exceptional work that they did, but I want to make this point first. As someone who started his career in government as a federal gang prosecutor, this is an issue that I care deeply about. This is my first press conference as Acting Attorney General, and this is the first in-person press conference for Lindsay Rotolo, our new Director of the Division on Criminal Justice. In the coming months, you're going to be hearing from us a lot more about how we're addressing gun violence statewide. But today's actions reflect several features of our strategy. First, it's localized. We recognize that different cities have different issues, and we're tailoring our approach based on the needs of the community. Second, it's targeted. We're not locking up individuals indiscriminately, but focusing our efforts on the criminal organizations and the criminal activities that present the greatest threats to public safety. Third, it's collaborative. We recognize that no single law enforcement agency can solve these problems on its own, and that we need to work with our federal, our state, our county, and our local partners in order to get the job done. And fourth, it's comprehensive. We're using all of the tools at our disposal to keep dangerous weapons away from the folks most likely to cause harm, whether that's through criminal prosecution or through other community-based programs. The reality is, we must do everything in our power to stop gun violence and to stop gun violence now. As part of our Trinitarios investigation, we tapped the phones of several gang members. We heard how they are using violence and how they are threatening violence in an effort to claim territory in this city. In one call, an alleged leader of the gang, Eric Polanco, one of the defendants in today's charges, talked about a conflict with a rival set, stating, and I quote, "People want war, so we're going to have war." Every week we see the casualties of these battles, of this needless cycle of violence and retaliation. We see the effect on people's lives. But we are committed to using the intelligence that we gain from these investigations to dismantle the criminal networks that are fueling this violence and to protect our residents from danger. This is an essential part of the multi-pronged strategy that Governor Murphy has articulated and that I am committed to implementing as long as I'm in this position. That's part of the reason why I'll be back here in Patterson on August 7th for the gun buyback. Less weapons in our cities mean less opportunities for them to be used in violence. We'll be in Patterson, we'll be in Newark, we'll be in East Orange and Atlantic City, all on the same day. People can turn in firearms for cash, no questions asked. If we can divert even a single gun previously destined for a violent shooting, if we can prevent even one family from experiencing the trauma of gun violence, then these programs have served their purpose. It's what the people of this community deserve, and it's what the people standing up here behind me are going to provide to the people of New Jersey. Thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Passaic County Prosecutor Camelia Valdez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Attorney General Andrew Bruck and to all the partners that are here. As always, I'd like to give you some context to what we're talking about. I'm going to be focusing on what we call in our work the environment in terms of our shootings. To give you some context to the work that we're all doing, the non-fatal shootings we calculated because we keep intelligence on what we are doing so that we can better deploy our resources and our partners. From January 1st to July 19th of 2021, we have experienced 65 shootings in the city of Patterson. For the same time period of 2020, we experienced 47 shootings. So our shootings are up by 38%. The wards that are most impacted by this violence are the 4th Ward, the 5th Ward, and the 1st Ward. That's where we're focused our efforts. We know that when one shooting happens in one ward, we can almost predict that it will happen in the subsequent wards. So we keep track of where they're happening. Of those 65 non-fatal shootings, that represents 98 victims so far. So 98 people in the city of Patterson have been involved in a non-fatal shooting. For the same time period last year, it was 71 victims. So that's also a 38% increase. In terms of our firearm recoveries, because of the efforts of the Patterson Police Department, I want to share those numbers with you as well. In 2020, we had 200 total firearm recoveries. So far, year to date, we have 128 recoveries of guns. Guns are in our cities, guns are all over the state, and we're keeping track of the recoveries for a reason. The reason is we want to be disruptive to the violence that we see and are reflected in the numbers statewide. Fatal shootings. From January 1st to July 19th, 2021, in the city of Patterson, we have had 15 homicides. For the same time period of 2020, we had 12 homicides. So we're at a 25% increase. And so we are focused on gun violence. And the numbers are important because it gives context to why we're doing what we're doing and the manner in which we are doing it. The prosecutor's office was fortunate to be able to count on so many of the partners that are here today, federal, state, local partners, and you will hear from them and see them momentarily. One of the things that we are engaged in is engaging law enforcement, and you know that law enforcement is here. This is not a new occurrence. These partnerships occur day in and day out. We employ different initiatives, different partners, depending on what we're working on. And so I'm happy to share with you the results of an initiative that we partner with the United States Marshal Service on it. And you'll hear a little bit more about that momentarily. We, the prosecutor's office, partnered with the United States Marshal in an operation called Operation Silk City. As we know, Patterson is the Silk City. The prosecutor's office conducted this operation with over 21 law enforcement agencies. Last week, we had about 100 officers in our office talking about how to best disrupt the violence that we see. And so I will now talk to you a little bit about what that operation consisted of and who assisted with that. That operation was focused on making sure that we were looking at who has active warrants. We spent a number of months focusing on who has active warrants, who is most likely to engage in violent activity, what are the types of offenses that are fueling the violence. We know that by and large, narcotics, trafficking, and selling and possession has a strong possibility of resulting in violence. So we looked at people who we can confirm had active warrants, and that's where we focused our efforts. The operation consisted of making sure that we saw who had active warrants, what was the likelihood that they would engage in violence if given the opportunity, and that's how we came up with a strategy that we shared with all of our partners. Natural partners in that effort in our county, always the Passaic County Sheriff, Richard Burnick, who's here, was our partner. The United States Marshal Service came to us and worked with us on this initiative. The New Jersey State Police, Colonel Callahan, is always a natural partner, and various municipalities came and answered the call because we need the help. This is happening statewide. It's not localized to Patterson only. We're talking about Patterson because that's where we are, but this is happening statewide. And I can tell you from knowing the agony that the community feels about these shootings and having to deal with families, people don't want to hear, well, it's because of the pandemic or we're in an uptick. Victims and survivors do not want to hear that. They want to hear, what are we doing to stem this tide? What are we doing to collaborate and stop the next shooting? So that's what our multi-pronged approach is focused on. In addition to focusing on violence, because we already had the opportunity to work with the marshals, we were also focused on a number of individuals that are convicted sex offenders that have failed to register. We, at last look, we are always behind Essex County, and I'm so fortunate that my colleague, Prosecutor Ted Stevens from Essex County, is here. In terms of the number of convicted sex offenders, Essex County leads, Passaic is right behind, and then the city of Camden. So while not necessarily violent, still dangerous to the community. So while we were at it and the marshals were here, we wanted to focus on convicted sex offenders that have failed to register and therefore do not give us the opportunity to really monitor them because they haven't registered. So of those, we were able to identify 25 of them that we are pursuing. In that sweep, we were able to charge one of the sex offenders federally, and now he has been brought to justice. All told, because of the efforts of the United States Marshal Service and all of our partners that I'll talk to you a little bit about in a second, we focused on violent offenders, we focused on predatory individuals that are out there causing chaos for the law-abiding citizens of Patterson. And this operation consisted of a week's worth of time where we had all of the agencies at the table, and it's just an example of the collaboration of all of the agencies. We recognize that we are facing some challenges in terms of law enforcement, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to answer the call and that we won't continue with these efforts. The marshal, the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's department, and key agencies that are anchors and natural partners with us in this effort were all at the table. An example in terms of the work of the sweep, one of the individuals that was apprehended that I'll share with you, his name is Clark of Patterson, 31 years old. Because of the efforts of the Passaic County prosecutors, narcotics, gangs, and Violent Crimes Task Force, in conjunction with the marshals, the Department of Homeland Security, who was here, the Sheriff's Department, we were able to execute warrants at his residence in the city of Passaic. So although not Patterson, Passaic is right there in our county. And as a result of those efforts, when we executed those search warrants, detectives were able to recover over 28 pounds of suspected cocaine with an estimated street value of $720,000, as well as various items used to package. And cocaine is still here. We focus on heroin because that's what we hear about, and fentanyl, but cocaine, K2 spice, and other drugs are still present in our county. If it were not for the efforts of the marshals, the Sheriff's Department, the New Jersey Department of Corrections that help us identify what warrants are good warrants, what are active warrants, what are not active warrants, the New Jersey State Police, Customs and Border Protections, the Special Response Team, and the entirety of our law enforcement partners. They are here and they will remain with us as long as this work continues. It was my privilege to be able to partner in this way with state and local and federal partners, and we're going to continue to do that. You're going to hear about the gun buyback and other efforts, and just because you don't necessarily see us, that does not mean that we are not there. The effort, the collaboration, and the result of being able to apprehend people that are fugitives, that have active warrants, that pose a danger to our community, those are the people that we're focused on, and we're going to keep focused on. And with that, one of the partners that's always at the table, and we are so indebted to him for his service, is Colonel Pat Callahan.
Thank you, Prosecutor. I'll just take a moment to echo some of the remarks before me. Thank you, General, and to all the partners that are up here and lining the walls, especially those men and women that are out in the streets across the state. I know you think of the state police, most people think about that road trooper that's up and down on the turnpike or the parkway because they're that most visible sign of law enforcement out there. But every day, 24/7, we have women and men that are gathering intelligence, that are doing investigative support, that are ensuring mission gets accomplished for the safety of the citizens, and not only Patterson, but in cities across the state. One initiative is the one that we're talking about today, that Fugitive Sweep, led by the U.S. Marshals Service and all the partners that are there. And we're doing that because of the cities that are impacted most by gun violence, and obviously Patterson being one of them. So that's when we step up shoulder to shoulder and offer assistance from our fugitive unit to support that endeavor. To the General's point about this gun violence reduction effort being localized, it can't just be the local police department. It needs to be federal, state, county, other agencies helping in this endeavor, because the issue is just certainly that. So phenomenal partners with Patterson PD. As always, that relationship has been solid forever, and that was evidenced by what happened here the past week. So I remain proud of that collaborative effort with the Marshal Service and all the partners before us, the county prosecutors, obviously Essex and Passaic, and police departments across the state. As the Attorney General said, we really need to make this a priority, and he has. I know the governor has. And it's a multiple-pronged approach. Right now, as we're here, there's Jersey troopers on horseback engaging with the community just a few short blocks from here, engaging with the youth and trying to, with that avenue, stem this tide and break that silence. And we're all coming together for that common good of reducing gun violence. To the prosecutor's point, if we save one, then all of these efforts will not have been in vain, and that officer that has to go knock on that door to tell mom and dad that their son or daughter isn't coming home, no officer should ever have to do that. And that's our goal here, collectively and collaboratively, to make sure that that doesn't happen. At this time, I'd like to introduce another phenomenal partner, the Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, Director Lindsay Rotolo. Director?
Thank you so much, Colonel. Thank you, Prosecutor, thank you. Sorry. Good afternoon. I want to offer just a few additional details about the long-term investigation, joint investigation that we did with the Patterson Police Department into the 400-block set of the Trinitario street gang. Within the last week, we brought to a close an 8-month investigation with the execution of several search warrants, and through the course of that investigation, recovering the following: 5 handguns, 6 illegal large-capacity ammunition magazines, one of which was capable of handling 50 rounds at a time, approximately 800 rounds of ammunition. As General Bruck indicated in his remarks, communications that were intercepted during the course of this investigation made clear that these men that we have just arrested allegedly armed themselves to further their drug distribution business and to defend their drug territory that covered 10 blocks of this city. Our investigators listened to tapped phones as defendant Eric Palenko went back and forth with an alleged rival gang member about violent retaliation. In one conversation, the rival said, and I'm quoting, "If I'm passing by your block, then what you need to do is shoot up my car, and that's it. If you hit me, then you scored. If you didn't, then I'm going to come back and shoot at you right back." In another intercepted conversation, as the general indicated, Palenko stated, "People want war, so we're going to have war." Our investigation further revealed that this talk was not mere posturing, as just last month, one of the alleged leaders of the 400 block set, defendant Landau, was shot 4 times while on set, in a shooting believed to involve a rival drug set. These blocks are people's homes, and those people deserve to feel safe at home. Our goal in this operation was to reduce gun violence in this area by locking up the members of the 400 block set for significant prison terms. Through our 8-month investigation, we were able to charge 14 alleged gang members with first-degree racketeering. That charge carries a sentence of 10 to 20 years in state prison with a period of parole ineligibility equal to 85% of the sentence imposed. We also charged 3 high-level members of the drug set with first-degree promoting organized street gang. They are Eric Palenko, who allegedly ran the set, Joseph Landau, who was allegedly acted as Palenko's street boss, and Roberto Santiago, who allegedly was a cocaine supplier for the set. The sentence for promoting organized street crime must be served consecutively to the sentence for any of the underlying offenses. Those men and a 4th man, Palenko's brother Gregory Palenko, also face second-degree weapons charges. Second-degree charges carry a sentence of 5 to 10 years in state prison, and these weapon charges particularly carry a mandatory minimum term without parole. In addition, all of the defendants face various drug charges, including a 3rd-degree charge of conspiracy to distribute narcotics, which carries a sentence of 3 to 5 years in prison. As the Attorney General indicated, this set of the Trinitario Street Gang was distributing narcotics including heroin, cocaine, and oxycodone. Our investigation revealed that the drug distribution activities of this set involved numerous hand-to-hand transactions. Now, although these transactions were generally involved smaller quantities of narcotics, we allege that this drug ring was prolific, with 6 to 9 members typically working the set daily from 11 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, and conducting up to 30 transactions in just a single day. The investigation revealed that this group controlled a large territory here in the city, extending north from Market Street to Park Avenue and bounded on the west and east by Rosa Parks Boulevard and Madison Avenue. We allege that they engaged in their open-air drug dealing without any regard to the impact that they had on the quality of life of the many residents in this area of the city, and without regard to the danger to which they exposed those residents as a result of the shootings of the type alleged or indicated and discovered during this investigation. The Division of Criminal Justice, Gangs, and Organized Crime Bureau partners frequently with the Patterson Police Department Narcotics Unit in these types of operations to target gang members and drug traffickers linked to violence in this city. And of course, we also always partner with the New Jersey State Police, who assisted in this investigation. This operation is a demonstration of how successful our partnership with the Patterson Police Department is and it demonstrates our commitment to the residents of this section of Patterson, who live with the daily threat of being caught in crossfire of rival drug sets. We pledge to continue these strategic investigations targeting the gangs, guns, and drugs that are undermining the safety and security in this neighborhood and too many other neighborhoods throughout our state. I thank you for this opportunity, and please allow me to turn it back over to the General. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. So before I open it up to questions from the reporters here, of course, important to acknowledge that while we're all up here standing and talking about the good work that's happening, there are career public servants who are out in the streets right now, law enforcement officers, federal, county, state, local, who are doing the hard work to keep our cities safe. And the career public prosecutors who are out there making these cases that we get to announce today. And before I take questions, I want to acknowledge all the folks who helped make this possible. So first, from the Division of Criminal Justice Gangs and Organized Crime Bureau, I want to recognize DHG Heather Hasselbein, who is the lead prosecutor under the supervision of Bureau Chief Lauren Scarpa Yafantis, Deputy Bureau Chief Cynthia Vasquez, DCJ Deputy Director Anne-Marie Taggart, and of course, our new director, Lindsay Rotolo, just an absolute rock star. The detectives from DCJ are Detective Russell Kingsland, who is the lead detective, working under the supervision of Lieutenant P.J. Soule, former Deputy Chief of Detectives Brian Bruton, and Chief of Detectives Weldon Powell. Of course, I also want to recognize the Patterson Police Department Narcotics Unit under the leadership of Captain Bert Riviero, Chief Ibrahim Bekora, Public Safety Director Jerry Spezial, there he is. I'm so glad to have you here, and of course, Mayor Andre Saya. I know how much the mayor cares about gun violence in the city, how committed he is to ending this problem, and we look forward to his partnership as we go forward on this together. So thank you, Mayor, for being here. Finally, I also want to recognize the New Jersey State Police Electronic Surveillance Unit for their invaluable assistance. It was an outstanding operation that undoubtedly saved lives. Now, as for the Fugitive Sweep, I want to say thank you to the many law enforcement partners across Passaic County, specifically the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office, under the leadership of our wonderful host, the always fantastic prosecutor Camelia Valdez, the U.S. Marshals Service under the leadership of Marshal Juan Matos. He's sorry he couldn't be here today. The New Jersey State Police Regional Fugitive Task Force under the leadership of Colonel Patrick Callahan, the Passaic County Sheriff's Office under the leadership of Sheriff Richard Berdnick, the New Jersey Department of Corrections, and the Customs and Border Protection Special Response Team. And finally, a thank you to everyone who's involved in the gun buyback program. From Passaic County, Prosecutor Valdez, Patterson Mayor Andre Saya, Patterson Police Director Jerry Spezial, and Patterson Police Chief Ibrahim Bekora. From Essex County, Prosecutor Stevens, we're happy to have you here today. Thank you for coming up. Newark Mayor Roz Baraka, Police Director Brian O'Hara, who I saw, there he is. Thanks so much for coming. Police Chief Lee Douglas in East Orange, where we'll also be doing a gun buyback. I want to thank Mayor Ted Green, Police Chief Phyllis Bindi, and from Atlantic County, our new acting prosecutor, Carrie Schill, who just started this week, Atlantic City Mayor Marty Small, who's been a great partner, and the police interim officer in charge, James Sarkos. We have a great partnership with Chief Sarkos, and we look forward to continuing that. And of course, from the Division of Criminal Justice, the chief of our Prosecution Supervision and Training Bureau, Jeffrey Burrell. So with that, we got a lot of people here. We got a lot of information to get through, so we'll keep this on topic. Any questions?
How many shootings have you attributed to Tarios? And how many of those victims that you talked about?
So let me hand it over to Director Rotolo.
Thank you, General. And unfortunately, I can't share too much information about that other than during the course of our investigation, one of the charged defendants was shot 4 times while on set, specifically while serving a customer. However, I cannot speak to you about the active investigations into those shootings. There was also I'm sorry. I wish I could give you more details, but unfortunately I cannot.
You got details of a specific case, you think of a general number of more than a dozen or?
we're aware of, I'm afraid I really can't attribute it to people who have been charged. I'm sorry. Thank you, though. No?
Other questions? Sure.
Could you explain how the gun buyback program is going to work, what people should do if they want to turn in a weapon?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be putting out a press release now with information, and we'll be following up more over the coming weeks. We've set up a website so people can find this information. But the basic deal is that up to $250 is available for every gun that you turn in. When you turn it in, it's a gun amnesty program, no questions asked. And we'll be doing it at selected sites in the 4 cities that I mentioned before. So we'll have more information soon. You can also expect that a bunch of us will be out there on the day when we're doing the gun buybacks, because we think that it's important, not just that we're collecting the guns, but we're also making a public showing that we're committed to working together with the community to end gun violence. And so we'll definitely be out there on August 7th.
Well, when was Landau shot?
It's
Did
great.
you mention that?
Late June.
Late June? Which street?
On set, I believe it was Park.
We've seen gun buybacks, we've seen all of the things that you talked about today in the past, done multiple times. What makes you think this is going to be any different and have any different results than we've seen before? And secondly, everybody always compares everything to 2020, which is an odd year to compare anything to. I mean, there's, 3 more murders in Patterson this year than there were last year. It seems, to the victims, yes, but it's insignificant in light of where we were in 2020. Is it like even fair to compare anything to that, what happened in any city at any point last year?
Sure. So I'll take your questions in turn. So first, what are we doing that's different? So I think I said that in my remarks. Look, our strategy is localized, it's targeted, it's collaborative, and it's comprehensive. We have a lot of tools available in our toolbox that we can use to go after gun violence. We know what tools work, and it's a matter of picking the tools that we think are going to be most effective in a particular community and using them all at the same time in order to go after a specific problem. So if I can finish my question, finish answering your question. So that's the reason why we're out here today talking about 3 different things that we're doing. About a long-term investigation into a specific organization that we think was fueling violence in the city, a marshal sweep that's going after folks who we believe are linked to violent crime, and why we're also doing a gun buyback. And we think that those 3 things together will have an impact on reducing gun violence in the city. And also, as I said, this is an opening salvo. Expect to hear from us a lot more in the coming months. We think that there's more that we can be doing to end gun violence in this city and across the state, and we'll be doing it. Now, as for your question on whether we can compare it to 2020, look, we are going through an extraordinary moment in our country and in our state. This has been an extraordinarily difficult 2 years. Everyone's worlds have been turned upside down. There's been economic insecurity, there's been unrest, and I think it's tough to draw too many conclusions from the variations that we're seeing in gun violence right now. But what I can say is 1 murder is too many, 1 shooting is too many, and as long as there is violence in this city, we will be here, we will be working, and we'll be working to end it. Anyone else? Sean.
General, you mentioned earlier that there are troopers on horseback there today. Are there other more community policing oriented initiatives that are part of this that you can speak to?
Yeah, so look, there's going to be a ton of community policing initiatives that we're going to be doing over the coming months. I'll turn it over to Colonel Callahan to talk specifically about the horseback work and all of the really great community initiatives that he's doing.
Thank you, General. Yeah, as far as that mounted unit, there's nothing that draws folks out. I personally did it a few months back in Atlantic City, and trying to connect with community members on those blue sky days like today, we say, instead of trying to get to know each other around yellow crime scene tape. And we see that positive encounter with the communities, Patterson, Atlantic City, Trenton, I've personally experienced. I found it to be one of the most energizing days in my 27 years in law enforcement. We also have a Citizens Academy where we have people from all walks of life come in, and we pull that curtain back from the state police. How do we do internal affairs? How do we do officer-involved shootings? What do we do with special operations and helicopters and horses and marine services? And that 8-week program sent ambassadors out to all corners of New Jersey. Our chaplains program dealing with our faith-based communities. Pastor Taylor from Trenton, from Friendship Baptist Church, not only our head chaplain, but a prominent leader in our capital city, who I'm on the phone with every single day, 7 days a week. I think those types of programs, youth initiatives, getting into the schools, we don't see community policing as a program anymore. It has to be woven into the fabric of every single law enforcement officer, not as a checking a box or as a program, but as a way of policing in order to make sure that that trust that is sometimes diminished and deteriorated is certainly reinstilled, and we keep that reservoir of trust filled to the brim. Thanks, General.
Excuse me, sorry, for our friends at the press conference, one more question, please.
Kat and Murray, what ward are they in?
Rosa Parks Boulevard, Colonel, between Dale Street and 12th Avenue.
If you wanted to shoot up there, Anthony, and cover that too, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming. Go check out the horses, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.